Okay, let's stock this thing with my favorite kind of food, a cube. We're gonna go 3D object, cube. I'm gonna scale it down a little bit. And I'm gonna move it up. There we go. And this is going in food slot 1. So I'm gonna say food 1. Now food 1 will go in the back. So I make food 1 a sub part of slot 1. If I look at the top, so food 1, I want to move that to the back. And on food 1, it has a box collider, mesh renderer. I want to add physics rigid body so that it can fall. And if I play it, let me see if that food item kind of just drops. Yep. So it's sitting there on the shelf. All right, good. We're going to duplicate food item. Call it food 2. Whoops. And then on food 2, we're going to move it forward. Wonder if I can zoom in far enough. If I can see all the food. There we go. Alright, so if I click on food 1, and I'm actually going to scale this a little bit. Okay, click on food 2, scale it. Move in. I'm going to duplicate. Put that one right on the edge. Okay, if I press play, see if I got my 3 food items. There they are. Something's wrong with my shelf. It doesn't look right to me. Let me take a look and see. So if I go... Okay, so I'm going to click on my vending machine. Yeah, that's the one. Okay. There we go. Now our food is properly on the shelf. Now, we want to go ahead and, yeah, let's start kind of building this. We're going to assume that we're not going to be removing foods. So in our food slot, I got my price of, well, my double of price. We have another public array of game object. And it's an array. And I'm going to call this food items, or food item. I'll do food items, multiple. So each one's going to have a separate game object. That's those cubes. And basically, yeah, if we dispense, so I'm going to create a function. So public bool dispense food. And for right now, we're just going to iterate through our array. So we'll return true. So you might ask, why am I returning a bool? We're going to make our machine smart enough so that if it's an empty slot, we don't want to be dispensing food that you don't get. So later on, that's going to come into play. For right now, we're just going to keep it bool. And actually, to keep it simpler, take the return out. Let's do a void. There we go. So we can change that later on. So right now we want to iterate through our food items. To do that, we're going to do a for int I equals 0. I is less than food items dot length I plus plus. We're going to assume each of those items is a game object. It can be a game object or it can be null. So we'll say a game object current food items I. So I guess the current one we're looking at. What we want to do to that, well, let's do a check. If current does not equal null, then we want to access its rigid body. So current dot get component rigid body. Want to add our force. It's a new vector 3. Let me see. I think it's in the negative. We'll take a look. So it's not in the y, z. It's in the x direction. I think it's going forward, so negative. Let's take a look. So if I look right here, click on food. I'm looking at my x position, 1.35. Yeah, it decreases as I go forward. So you notice the x went from 1.3 to, yeah. Yeah, so we want to decrease in a negative. So a negative 10, x. Zero and 0. Alright, so for what this is doing is we're going to go through the entire array and add that force. Now to test this out, I'm going to do an if in my update input get key down D. So if the user presses the D key, I'm going to call it dispense food. Alright, so let's go ahead and set this up. I'm going to click on slot 1. It takes a little while, but you notice the food items comes in. I'm going to go and open that up. My size, I'm going to say that it's an array of 3. And you notice it has none by default, so those are nulls. Now I want to fill my slots kind of smartly. Food 1 is in the back, 2 is in the middle, and 3 is in the front. So when you fill a machine, the first item in is the last item out. So I want to make sure that food item 1 is in the back of the machine. So I'm going to go back into my slot. My back item, I'm going to go ahead and lock this at the top. Food item 1 is in spot 1, so element 0 is the back element. Element 2 is the mid element. And element 3, which is that one clear up front, that's the third element. You're going to see this when we pop these off the array, we're actually going to pop off from the back. So that's why. So the first food item to go is 3. That's the one on the front. And the last one to go is 1. That's the one on the back. Whoops. Now, if I save this, I'm going to go ahead and run it. See my vending machine. If I press a D, no whammies. Maybe 10 wasn't enough force. Okay. When in question, add more force. So the first one worked. Second one, oh, I got ripped off. Ripped off again, ripped off. Man. So we have a few little issues. One thing is this surface is way too sticky. So let's go into my assets. I'm going to create a new folder for my physics materials. And there I'm going to create a new physics material and call that a shelf. Now I'm going to unlock my inspector, so when I click on shelf, I can see the dynamic friction and the static friction. So the dynamic friction is how much friction it has as the object is moving. Static friction is how much friction it has as the object is still. So how much does it take to actually get it moving? I'm going to set both of those to a real small amount. So 0.01. 0.01. So that is a slippery surface. I'm going to save that. I'm going to go back to my vending machine. And my box collider, that front one, I don't care about that one. The shelf. So when I click on the edit, I should see the shelf highlight. On the physics material, I'm going to click on my little dot and choose my shelf. Now we're going to go play. And if I press the D key, so I got to do a little bit more. So I got to do maybe 200. Notice by the tone of my voice, I'm really sure of that amount. So D key. Oh, that's interesting. This is acting like a real vending machine. So 200 might have been too much. Let's try 180. Oh, 180 is too much. Let's try 150. So it's kind of the Price is Right game. You're going to have to modify that number and get that machine where it's working really good. So you got to fine tune it. Oh, yeah, that works pretty good. All right, I like that. So, yep. Now we have that one working good. I kind of lied. I'm going to delete this slot out. So I'm going to delete that one. I'm going to delete that one. Because it's going to be a lot easier. So I got slot 11. I'm going to duplicate it now. Make that slot 12. I'm going to look on top of the machine and move slot 12 over a little ways. Actually, I'm going to look, yeah. And then I'm going to duplicate slot 12. And move that over. I'm going to save that, and when I press play, you're going to notice something. Each one is listening to the D key. So when you press the D key, boom, loads of food. So we got to fix that. But we're getting close. So we have those slots working. We're going to have to kind of make the slots a little bit smarter, but we got a good start.